All right, let's talk about the
Well,
story
everybody,
of the
we have
day.
some stunning news. Only months after Stephen Colbert's late night show was canceled, we are now learning that Jimmy Kimmel's show is going to be pulled off the air indefinitely. This came after comments that he made last night about the Charlie Kirk situation and after years of relentless attacks coming from Donald Trump himself. Throughout this video, I'm going to show you the clip that got Jimmy Kimmel indefinitely pulled off the air, and then I'm going to run through a lot of Donald Trump's attacks. These are attacks coming in a top-down manner from the executive branch calling for the silencing of people in the media, of celebrities like Jimmy Kimmel. Donald Trump has been attacking other stars who then have had their shows pulled off the air after lawsuits from Trump and his supporters. It is sickening, and let's just start with the news itself. Breaking. Nexstar Media, which owns around 24 ABC affiliates, says it will preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live indefinitely tonight due to his commentary on Charlie Kirk's assassination. Quote, Mr. Kimmel's comments about the death of Mr. Kirk are offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our national political discourse, and we do not believe they reflect the spectrum of opinions, views, or values of the local communities in which we are located, said Andrew Alford, president of Nexstar's broadcasting division.
There's a lie. There's a lie. They did a poll too of like college universities. It's like of the like 80% of students who did know him, like only 30% of them liked him.
Continuing to give Mr. Kimmel a broadcast platform in the communities we serve is simply not in the public interest at the current time, and we have made the difficult decision to preempt his show in an effort to let cooler heads prevail as we move forward to the resumption of respectful, constructive dialogue. And in this context, to quote, preempt a show means they are removing Jimmy Kimmel Live from the broadcast schedule and replacing it with other programming, not airing the show on any of the ABC affiliated networks. I want to point out that Nexstar Media, who owns, 24 ABC affiliates, has caved in the past. ABC recently agreed to give $15 million to Donald Trump's presidential library to settle a defamation lawsuit. They literally just bent the knee and not only gave $15 million, probably to prevent discovery or to prevent the lawsuit from spending or costing that much more money. They not only bent the knee, but they gave it to Trump for his presidential library. Really quickly, I just want to say, Donald Trump made a bunch of remarks about Jimmy Kimmel, calling to pull his show off the air for the past few years. Even as president of the United States, Trump has been calling for this. He's been attacking ABC, Jimmy Kimmel. He attacked the Washington Post, the New York Times. He launched a $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal that is very quickly going to be dissolved because it was just a BS lawsuit. And many of these publications have bent the knee. Many of these shows have bent the knee. But on the Adam Mockler channel, we will never. We have no outside investors. There is nobody who can make us bend the knee. And we are the one variable they did not realize was there. We pull, 50, 60, like 80 million views per month covering politics relentlessly. We are the variable they did not think of. So if you want to help us get to 2 million subscribers, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. Donald Trump posted on July 22nd of 2025, quote, the word is, and it's a strong word at that, Jimmy Kimmel is next to go in the untalented late night sweepstakes, and therefore after, talent will be gone. These are people who, with absolutely no talent, who were paid millions of dollars for, in all cases, destroying what used to be great television. It's really good to see them go, and I hope I play a major part in it. Wow. Donald Trump then says, stupid Jimmy Kimmel, who still hasn't recovered from his horrendous performance and big ratings drop as host of the Academy Awards, especially when he showed that he suffered from Trump derangement syndrome, to the entire world by reading on air about my truth about how bad of a job he was doing. So then he goes on this long post, begged him not to do it. Don't read his truth, Jimmy. Please don't do it, they said. He was made to look like a fool. He's the worst host ever. This one was in 2024. So this dude was campaigning, just beefing with Jimmy Kimmel. But there's more. There's a bunch more. This one says, from 2025, everybody is saying that I was solely responsible for the firing of Stephen Colbert. That is not true. The reason he was fired was pure lack of talent, and the fact that this deficiency was costing CBS $50 million in lost.
$50 million in losses? No, that's how much he was making a year. What?
Next up will be an even less talented Jimmy Kimmel, and then a very insecure, weak Jimmy Fallon.
He's
I mean,
literally
he just keeps going.
Yeah. Wow. Holy shit. I just thought this was about Jimmy Kimmel, but yeah, no, he's just going after all the late night comedians. Lenny Bruce, a pioneer in satirical and social commentary, Lenny Bruce was arrested multiple times for his routines in the early 1960s. He faced numerous obscenity charges in cities including San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, for his use of profanity and commentary on topics like religion and politics. Legal impact. While he was often acquitted in a 1964 obscenity conviction in New York sentenced him to 4 months in a workhouse. He died of morphine overdose before his appeal could be decided. All right. George Carlin, renowned comedian known for his commentary on language and politics. Carlin was arrested for his most famous routine. 1972, Carlin was arrested in Milwaukee for disorderly conduct after performing the 7 words you can never say on television. The charges were dropped. The case became central in 1978 Supreme Court decision FCC v. Pacifica Foundation, which affirmed the government power to regulate indecent material on public which affirmed, yeah. Carlin was also present at Lenny Bruce's arrest in 1962 and was arrested himself for refusing to show ID. Richard Pryor, a groundbreaking comedian who challenged racial stereotypes. Pryor was arrested in the 1970s for profanity. Foul language ordinance in 1974. Pryor was arrested in Virginia for swearing on stage. The charges were listed as disorderly conduct because obscenity laws were no longer in effect in most areas of the time. Social commentary. The incident is notable because it occurred the same year his co-written movie Blazing Saddles was released, which featured strong language. Marty Wayne. Decades before Bruce and Carlin, Marty Wayne was arrested for performing an obscene show in Philadelphia in 1946. Bro. My problem is, I felt like these were already decided laws. And one of the reasons I used to be a Republican was because I wanted smaller government, not bigger government. I felt like the government was infringing on free speech, even if it's speech I didn't like. Now they're just doing it without the government. Well, this time the FCC threatened to pull their licenses. So, yeah, this is a dark time. Dark time, y'all.
Going over and over and over. It is absolutely absurd. And I shouldn't have to lay this part out. The President of the United States, their job is to tone down the division, tone down the rhetoric. Donald Trump amps it up, attacks figures in the media, calls them weak, insecure, gets their shows canceled because they criticize him. This is pure authoritarianism. When you, as the President of the United States, leverage your executive branch powers to launch lawsuits against the Wall Street Journal, to intimidate Fox News, to intimidate other media companies and make them bend the knee, that is raw authoritarianism, and it creates this chilling effect. Now, Jimmy Fallon, who is still on the air, will likely be maybe a little bit more nervous about what he says. People will be a little bit more nervous about what they say about the Trump administration, which is not what you want. You don't want, in America, people nervous to critique the president or call the president out. Again, we will never relent on this show. Let me play this clip.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White
Fair.
White House,
He's doing so good, man. Like he handles loss so well.
which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years, and it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction.
There was nothing wrong with that.
Bro, that's a good joke. That's the joke. No, there has to be more. There has to be more.
Construction.
That was quite literally the segment that got Jimmy Kimmel canceled. It was nothing beyond that. Jimmy Kimmel says the right-wingers tried to make him out as something other than one of their own. He could have just been referencing the fact that this kid grew up in a Republican family, despite whatever ideology he leaned into over the past year or so. Tyler Robinson very clearly did grow up in a Republican family with guns. He was one of their own in a Republican household, despite whatever ideology he's had over the past few months. It doesn't matter. Then he says, Trump doesn't really seem thrilled about this, and he plays Trump's own words. So Jimmy Kimmel is getting canceled for playing a clip of Trump's own lack of empathy. It is absurd, and we need to continue calling this administration out. This is pure authoritarianism.
It was a good
In no
joke.
reality should the president be attacking universities. Like, can I just back up for 1 second? Donald Trump has repeatedly attacked Columbia University, Harvard University,
my
universities
God.
across the country to try to get them to bend the knee via lawsuits, via withholding funds, every single way he can. He tries to pressure them. That is
that guy,
authoritarian. You can talk about law firms. He got like 6 law firms that he sued to then just do free pro bono work for the president because he wanted to exert his power. You can look at the media. He's constantly trying to get shows canceled relentlessly. You can look at individual judges that he attacks. The president of the United States shouldn't be attacking judges and calling to impeach judges. Even Supreme Court Justice Roberts said to Trump one time, you cannot be using your power to attack judges. That's not cool. So I'm going to leave it there. If you appreciate the work we do, drop a like below. Subscribe. I love you all. Peace out.
I can't believe that. I thought it was gonna be worse. I thought it was gonna be way worse. Holy shit. He's in the 4th phase of grief construction. That is comedy, yo. Oh man, he's in the 4th phase of grief construction. All right, and then look at this. Look at this.
Republican Texas.
I don't agree with what she did. I think people should be respected in however they, mourn somebody's death. But I also believe in the First Amendment. If they did it in a public space, then she can say and feel how she wants to feel and say what she wants to say in a public space. So I think this is, I mean, somebody's gonna get in trouble. Somebody's gonna get in trouble.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott was celebrating on social media in response to a viral photograph showing a young black woman being hauled off the campus of Texas Tech University in handcuffs. So what did this young woman do? Was she vandalizing? Was she beating someone up? Had she committed a crime? And no. This young woman, young black woman, of course, her crime that caused her to be hauled away in handcuffs
And expelled from the school.
and expelled from school.
He knows the story. I thought you were gonna take a break, my guy. Oh man.
Was that she was mocking the death of Charlie Kirk. In fact,
I'm sorry. That's fucked up. I'm sorry. I mourned him. I'm good. I got through my 5-7 stages of grief. I got through them. I'm through them. All right. Now I'm okay, back to normal schedule. He's a fucking asshole.
reported to have said, F y'all, your homie dead.
shit. That's fucked up.
And for that,
That's fucked up.
she was hauled away in handcuffs as if she were a murderer herself. And again, is no longer enrolled in the school is all we have. So I don't know if she left or if she was expelled, but I have to imagine this was probably an expulsion for her doing nothing more than exercising her right to freedom of speech. And the governor of Texas, along with Ted Cruz, celebrated this. You may not like what somebody has to say, but that does not mean that legally they can be punished for it. Obviously, the fire in a crowded theater thing, is the way the exception goes. But her mocking Charlie Kirk, her celebrating the death, what you think of her doing that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what the U.S. Constitution thinks of her doing that, and it says you can. That's it. That's the end of that conversation. We don't have to have a conversation about whether you agree with it or disagree with it, whether it's right or whether it's wrong. It's illegal to crack down on freedom of speech. That is the only point that matters.
Yep.
But Greg Abbott,
and it's another thing too if he is like the fucking Pope or a very well-known pastor or some like Reverend Al Sharpton, like if he passed away, okay, if he's somebody like that, then we could talk. I wouldn't even. If some people made some funny jokes about it, I would probably be offended, but I wouldn't want them to lose their jobs. I wouldn't want them to get arrested. I wouldn't want them to have any blowback because they made a funny joke about Al Sharpton, okay? This guy was a fucking dick.
reposted the picture, by the way, on Twitter and said this. This is what happened to the person who was mocking Charlie Kirk's assassination at Texas Tech. Fuck around, find out. Definitely picked the wrong school to taunt the death of Charlie Kirk. Again, you're boasting, you're celebrating losing our First Amendment freedoms. Aren't you the guy that, you got in a huff and all Republicans got in a huff because Jasmine Crockett recently called you Hot Wheels? And here you are mocking another person? Gee, weird, huh? Texas Tech University put out the following statement on Monday. Any behavior that denigrates victims of violence is reprehensible, has no place on our campus, and is not aligned with our values. Federal law prevents Texas Tech University from commenting on individual student conduct matters. We take all reported violations seriously and address them under university policy and the law. The university also confirmed to Cron on Monday that the student was no longer enrolled at the university. So again, not sure if she left voluntarily or if she was expelled, but pretty sick stuff. Ted Cruz over the weekend said this.
Bro.
I saw an image on Twitter of this one soulless young woman dancing and singing that Charlie Kirk had been shot in the neck. Made me physically sick at the joy of this murder. You called her a soulless young woman, right? Should we crack down on your free speech? You're mocking a woman who is also going through something now. You're mocking her pain, mocking her family's pain. The internet plastered a picture everywhere, basically put a target on her.
I want to say this for the record. I never have and I never will been associated with Antifa. We're going to have to come up with a new way to censor that word too, because holy shit. I am pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster as a major terrorist organization. Not Russia. Not Russia. Not Israel. Not Israel. But Antifa. As a major terrorist organization, I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for the attention to this matter. He's just named a domestic organization a terrorist group. That just happened. I think that's just what happened. Yo, I think the government is coming for us. I literally think the government is out to get us. Me particularly. I feel attacked. I feel attacked. For the color of my skin and the words I say. Oh! Can you believe that? Can you believe that? I'm getting attacked for the words I say and the color of my skin. Oh, I can't believe this. This is what my grandma and my grandpa felt like. Oh my god. How could they do this to my grandma and grandpa? They're so nice and sweet. Oh, dude, for real. This feels like fascism to me. I don't know. I've never felt fascism, but pretty to right to be wrong. Come on, you work for the right to be. Oh, what? I mean, what is the president of the United States doesn't like the late night comedy shows making jokes about him, so he threatens the networks to get rid of them, and they do. What is that? What is that? What else is that? I don't understand. Let's ask AI. I need somebody. Okay. If the leader of a country decides to use their influence to get a late night talk show, to get multiple late night talk show hosts removed from the air, what kind of leader would that be? A leader who uses their influence to get multiple late night talk show hosts removed from the air would be acting as an authoritarian figure by suppressing free speech and intimidating the press. Such actions demonstrate disregard for democratic principles like freedom and expression. This behavior is characteristic of leaders who seek to control the public narrative and silence dissent. Why? Why are we allowing this to happen?
Do we just not care? Like, it's okay if y'all do it, it's not okay if we do it? Just want to make sure I'm clear on that. Folks, we are losing our freedoms.
Yes.
We are losing our rights. People are losing their jobs.
Yes.
I mean, hell, J.D. Vance came out Monday while guest hosting Charlie Kirk's podcast, right? Like, the vice president of the United States is guest hosting a podcast like it's the most normal thing in the world for him to do. Said this: when you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out. And hell, call their employer. freedom of speech is not a fireable offense, folks. I don't care what you say. I don't care who you say it about. Obviously, you can't say that you're going to do harm to another person, sure. But celebrating harm happening to someone else, whether it's on the left or right, doesn't matter if you like it. Doesn't matter if you condone it or condemn it. What matters is that it is protected. But we're losing our rights, we're losing our freedoms, we're losing our constitutional protections, we're losing our jobs. Trump announced we're going to investigate these people, said the investigations are actually already happening. We are losing everything. We are marching even faster now towards full-blown authoritarianism. Why? Because the president's favorite conservative influencer is no longer alive. That's seriously going to be the catalyst that drives us to a dictatorship in a matter of days? That's fucking crazy. That's fucking crazy. But it's also happening right before our eyes. Thanks for watching, everyone. You know, we're inching closer and closer to...
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I mean, in Donald Trump's America at the moment, you can get fired for words. Do you know that when Kim Jong-il passed away in North Korea, people were punished for not mourning in a sincere and authentic enough fashion? And that was the leader of a despotic regime. People in the United States now are being punished for not mourning the passing of a political commentator with some far-right leanings in a sufficiently authentic or sincere fashion. They're being punished with job losses and the like. And yet, of course, it is this country that people like Nigel Farage like to compare to North Korea. So, kudos to Donald Trump for describing the United Kingdom as a wonderful place. A wonderful, wonderful place. If Donald Trump is embarked upon a kind of takeover, if he is determined to dismantle the democratic norms of the United States of America, which is most certainly an argument, if not a matter of fact yet, if he is going to criminalize criticism and silence all dissent, even the dissent that is the truth, if he is embarked upon that path, when he wants political opponents to be punished and pilloried, and when he wants media critics or indeed people voicing uncomfortable truths to be hauled over the coals, then there is a lurch towards something deeply unpleasant. In fact, what am I talking about? He encouraged an armed coup against a democratic election result and went on to pardon the seditionists and the rioters responsible. There is no greater endorsement of political violence than pardoning people convicted of political violence. But remember, it's the other lot that are doing it. They're the other lot that are responsible for it. Another thing from my own...
This guy just has common sense. I just hate that he's a Brit. I don't hate it, but I'm just like, where's our common sense radio show hosts?
Past. I remember a teacher at one of my schools telling me that you should always stand up to bullies. And I remember saying to him, what if the bully is you, sir? I can't actually remember what he said in response, but there's a little indication there of how annoying it was to be one of my teachers. What if you're the bully, sir? What if the headmaster is the bully? I had a headmaster as a young boy who was a terrible bully, a violent, vicious bully. Would you stand up to him, or would you put an awful amount of effort into trying to keep him sweet? And that brings us to Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a vicious bully. He is an inconsistent, unreliable, mercurial, whimsical, vicious bully. He will indulge his own prejudices and proclivities to the detriment of the national interest, the public interest, any other interest except his own. Sometimes he'll even damage his own interest because he is too blinkered by his own vitriol and narcissism to recognise reality. Donald Trump bullies Volodymyr Zelensky when he comes into the Oval Office, and then, 2 months later, the news cycle's moved on and he's claiming to be a great defender or champion of Ukraine or an admirer of Zelensky. There is consistency in the way that he's spoken about Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer, quite possibly with the connivance and contribution of Peter Mandelson, I am not going as far today as to say that it proves he was right to appoint Mandelson, because I think he was horribly, horribly wrong. That is one of those moments where expediency and principle have smashed each other to smithereens. But what else could Keir Starmer do? Let's go further. Even if 12 months down the line, 2 years down the line, anything that Keir Starmer manages to secure from the Mango Mussolini has gone up in flames, quite possibly started by Donald Trump himself, this double state visit, this exercise in constitutional toe-tickling, this rolling out of red carpets and pageantry galore, this extreme pandering to the ego and the narcissism of a vicious bully is not only the right thing for Keir Starmer to do, it is something that he is doing extremely well. And those words curdle in my mouth as I utter them. But unless you can tell me what else he should have done, what else he could have done, what else he might have done, then I'm afraid you're going to have to agree with me. Speaking of words, this is how Donald Trump...
I think he can do what India's doing and say, fuck the United States, we're going... I mean, that's what most of the world is doing. They're saying, fuck the United States, we'll just go to China. Fuck the United States, we're going to China. Fuck the United States, we're going to China. That's what they're doing. That's what they could do.
Greeted an Australian...
But I think Keir Starmer is a little bit in the pro-Israel lobby still. I don't know what's going to happen with the new UN designated a genocide. Hopefully we get some movement on that. See.
Or responded to an Australian reporter who was simply asking a question about his own business dealings, which have, I think it's fair to say, enjoyed a most extraordinary upturn in fortunes since he became the president for the second time.
As president in office, you'd be engaged in so much business activity.
Well, I'm really not. My kids are running the business. I'm here. You know what the activity, where are you from?
I'm from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Four Corners
Well,
program.
the Australians, you're hurting Australia, right? In my opinion, you are hurting Australia very much right now. And they want to get along with me. You know, your leader is coming over to see me very soon. I'm going to tell him about you. You set a very bad tone.
Well,
Go ahead,
okay,
John.
okay, so
Maybe you
UAE
can set a nicer tone.
does a deal. What does it want in return?
Quiet.
See, bullies are always cowards.
Bully.
But the bigger the bully, the more power the bully has, the harder it is sometimes to get to the cowardice. That journalist there got to it in 5 seconds flat. Who else is thinking of Jimmy Carter's peanut farm? No?
Right.
Okay, I'll explain. When Jimmy Carter became president of the United States of America, he put the family peanut farm in a blind trust, lest there be any question whatsoever about the politics.
We should make that a requirement. If you want stocks, it needs to be in blind trust.
Of his administration having an impact, beneficial or otherwise, on his family business. Donald Trump doesn't even pretend that his family business isn't benefiting from this. His sons, who are, I mean, he's cursed with 2 Fredos, isn't he? And no Michael. But his sons are running the business and also play a major role in his political machine. And he is also, of course, involved in his own business dealings and hates being asked about it. And what does he do when he's asked about it? He attacks an entire country. I think it's worth... David up next, then Malcolm in Brighton. Then, of course, it could be you. I think it's worth listening to that again. This is a very simple question, whether you're looking at cryptocurrencies or whether you're looking at golf courses and hotels, whatever it is that you're looking at. The idea that Donald Trump's business dealings have in any way ceased since he became president is observably absurd. And yet you ask him a really simple question about it, and he attacks an entire country.
See this guy, oh, I don't know what I said, I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember, maybe that's what I said.
So that's him mocking a disabled New York Times reporter back in 2015. Of course, his opposition to violence is well documented.
Thrown into the back of a paddy wagon. You just see him thrown in, rough. I said, please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, you know, the way you put their hand over. Like, don't hit their head and they've just killed somebody, don't hit their head. I said, you can take the hand away, okay?
Violence and cheers. And of course, there's been a lot of talk this week about how political discourse should be conducted and how respectful and civil it should be.
Lock her up is right. For what she's done, they should lock her up. Crooked, you should lock her up. Lock up Hillary.
Not just Hillary and not just in his first term.
You look at what this Governor Newsom from California, isn't that his name, Newsom? What he's done to California is unbelievable.
That's not, of course, his name. His name is
Newsom. Oh, it's so sad. Oh, it's so sad. They act like their words are not recorded. So, I don't know. I think people are waking up. I think people are realizing it. I mean, did he do it?
But were those women in the restaurant inflicting harm or terror or damage by protesting the President of the United States? I mean, they were just shouting, basically, in his vicinity.
I mean, repeat what you just said. I mean, honestly, so you're asking whether there's damage done by 4 individuals screaming and yelling at the President of our United States while he's trying to have dinner. That can't be a serious question. That cannot be a serious question.
All right, folks, brace yourselves.
Yes, it is! What do you mean? No, it's not a serious question because this is the United States of America and we have the fucking First Amendment and we have the freedom to fucking protest our president wherever the fuck he is in public. God damn it! What do you mean? What do you mean? What the fuck? How is that? Oh my Jesus.
This is genuinely stunning. Donald Trump's authoritarian crackdown is only intensifying. Last night on CNN, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, this guy right here, the second highest ranking person in the Trump Justice Department, right under Attorney General Pam Bondi and right above FBI Director Kash Patel, told a stunned CNN host Caitlin Collins that the protesters who recently heckled and yelled at Donald Trump in a Washington, D.C. restaurant could each be hit with a RICO charge, a federal racketeering charge, for which, per count, you might spend up to 20 years in prison. And the basis for this is, well, by yelling at him in a restaurant, you've damaged, quote, damaged Donald Trump. Holy shit. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. 8 months in, and this is where we are. Take a look.
As you know, RICO has been used to go after, like, Al-Qaeda, MS-13, the Gambino family. How would something like that protest fall under a RICO charge?
That's not what we use RICO for only. RICO is available to all kinds of organizations committing crimes and committing wrongful acts, not just organized crime or ISIS or terrorist organizations. And so it depends. So is it, again, sheer happenstance that individuals show up at a restaurant where the president is trying to enjoy dinner in Washington, D.C., and accost him with vile words and vile anger, and meanwhile he's simply trying to have dinner? Does it mean it's just completely random that they showed up? Maybe, but to the extent that it's part of an organized effort to inflict harm and terror and damage to the United States, there's potential investigations there, and that's what the president was saying yesterday in the Oval Office, and what he also has said in the days before that as well.
But were those women in the restaurant inflicting harm or terror or damage by protesting the President of the United States? I mean, they were just shouting, basically, in his vicinity.
I mean, repeat what you just said. I mean, honestly, so you're asking whether there's damage done by 4 individuals screaming and yelling at the President of our United States while he's trying to have dinner. That can't be a serious question. That cannot be a serious question. I mean, it's true that there's a difference between shouting and committing an assassination,
there were supporters outside,
which is what happened to Charlie. Well, it depends. There's nothing wrong with peaceful protests, and nobody has ever said so. Of all the people in this country, Trump knows
you just said it. What do you mean? That's what they did. did. They had a nice little chant. Free DC, free Palestine, Trump is the Hitler of our time. Free DC, free Palestine, Trump is the Hitler of our time. Free DC, free Palestine, Trump is the Hitler of our time. Fuck, that was a good chant. I loved it. All they did was chant. Disrupted the fucking dinner. That's what we're Americans. That's what we're supposed to do. What the fuck? Sit-ins, boycotts, marches, time-honored acts of civil disobedience. And we're getting threatened with jail? We're getting threatened with jail and people are okay with this? Why am I the only one showing a sense of urgency? Is it because... I'm just too serious? I don't know.
Against him.
I feel like I'm not a very serious
about,
person.
And what the administration is talking about is organized efforts by individuals who are not present at the protests, but they're funding these protests, and they're not protests. They're inflicting damage and harm and actually assaulting officers. They're damaging vehicles, and that's the conduct that we're trying to stop.
Well, I mean...
They weren't it. What are you talking about? There was none of that. I don't even know where to begin. It's not funny. It's actually not funny at all.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't.
This isn't funny.
Hitting. I want to remind you. So this is what happened. I remind
Thank
you. This
you.
is.
Show it. Josiah. I love it.
This is
Show
what
Josiah.
Todd Blanche.
His name is Josiah. Found out
former
his name
personal
is Josiah.
attorney. He might need to check his fucking letterhead because he's no longer Trump's personal attorney. He's supposed to be the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. This is what they did. And just how gross it was. How can you even ask that question? It's like not even serious. Like you're four people yelling at the president of our United States? What do you mean? Of course you damaged. Like I'm stunned. You should be stunned. This is what they did to merit a potential RICO prosecution. They yelled at him. They called him names. They called him Hitler, and then they were escorted out of the building. And that's it. They're going to potentially get hit with a
I think he's more of the Stalin of our time, not the Hitler. But yeah,
like that's it, man. I don't even know. I just objectively the most corrupt and authoritarian administration in the history of this country, bar none. Elie Honig, CNN's chief legal analyst, who, by the way, has defended Trump at times, he was stunned too.
We had the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, on air last hour, Caitlin Show, and he tried to argue that the people in the seafood restaurant who taunted, protested the president might have been a racketeering enterprise, all right? I mean, a racketeering enterprise is what I used to use to prosecute the Gambino and Genovese family. You know, other people used to prosecute MS-13. And the deputy AG, who I've known for 20 years, we were at the SDNY together and have defended him publicly at times, said with a barely straight face that those people in the fish restaurant could be prosecuted under RICO? Come on.
Hold on, Ellie, but...
Yeah, come on. I mean, it is preposterous.
it's
Dan Goldman, who's a
preposterous.
member of Congress and a former prosecutor, says, I charge RICO cases. Yelling at the president is not a racketeering act and cannot be the basis for a criminal charge. Todd Blanche knows better. He is corrupting the DOJ with ridiculous comments like this. Andrew Engel, who's a lawyer, said Todd Blanche should be disbarred. It is dishonorable behavior from an attorney to blatantly say you should be charged for a RICO case, or with a RICO case, for the act of yelling at the president. They're trying to criminalize protests. No respectful attorney would ever dare to make such a case. I mean, listen again what he said. Harm and terror and damage. They yelled at him. Like, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche defends the idea of prosecuting protesters by Alina Fayez at CNN. Defended Trump's suggestion that protesters could be prosecuted for racketeering as the administration continues to preview a plan to crack down on left-wing groups. It claims they're inciting violence. Trump on Monday argued the protesters who interrupted his dinner at a restaurant in downtown D.C. last week could face charges under the Racketeer Influenced and Corruption Organizations Act, claiming that one of the protesters was, quote, a paid protester. Quote, I've asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to look into that in terms of RICO, bringing RICO cases. Trump said, speaking from the Oval Office, quote, they should be put in jail. What they're doing to this country is really subversive. And then again, it goes into, what Todd Blanche said there. Pressed by Collins on whether the protesters were inflicting harm by...
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years.
It's such a good joke.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition.
Such a good joke, bro.
This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone.
Wait, what did he say?
When he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
That was it was tasteful too. It wasn't even that dark of her humor.
I mean, honestly, Greg, I can't. You all heard it. You all heard it. It's stunning. Okay. Trump last week made his first foray into an outside eatery in the district since taking office in January, asserting that his administration's crackdown on crime was instrumental in his decision to dine out. He was joined by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Upon entering Joe's Seafood, prime steak, and stone crab, Trump was met with applause from diners. The president remarked to the group gathered in the dining room that D.C. is a, quote, safe city and they should enjoy themselves. As Trump was sitting down to dine, however, he was approached by protesters chanting Free D.C. and Free Palestine. In video obtained by CNN, a handful of protesters began chanting Free D.C., Free Palestine, Trump is the Hitler of our time, as the president makes his way through the dining room. The demonstrators are booed out by others dining in the restaurant, and Trump ultimately came within a few feet of the protesters before the video ends. Code Pink, the organization that protested at Trump's dinner earlier this month, said on Wednesday that the president is, quote, trying to intimidate people who speak for peace and justice. Quote, there is not some sort of big conspiracy around disruptions and confrontations like at Joe's. We practice nonviolent and non-threatening free speech. It's as simple as that. Anyone who believes in free speech should be appalled at this attempt to criminalize it. Blanche argued that Tuesday that the notion of prosecuting protesters did not apply to peaceful individuals. Quote, there's nothing wrong with peaceful protests. Nobody ever said so. Again, we saw that thing in the clip, but it's just like, no, it's pretty obvious what you're looking to do here. You don't want Donald Trump to face any sort of criticism in print media, on TV, from protesters. You just don't want it, and you're looking for excuses to criminalize it. It's shameful, it's disgusting, and it's objectively proof
it's
that this administration is by far the most corrupt and authoritarian administration in history.
Terrible.
Shocking stuff. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.
All right. Let's, this is gross.
Resign or be fired. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, here's the second part of Pam Bondi's recent foot-in-mouth episodes in the aftermath of the brutal assassination of Charlie Kirk, and it came from this appearance on Fox News.
That's horrific. It's free speech, but you shouldn't be employed anywhere if you're going to say that. And employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit looking at that immediately, that Office Depot had done that. We're looking at that.
So she goes on Fox News and says, hey, listen, Office Depot, if you don't print things that Republicans and people who mourn Charlie Kirk want, not only can you be fired, which is true, right? Again, probably an at-will employee, but the federal government can actually prosecute you. We can use state power against you. That triggered a massive backlash. And again, as I mentioned in the Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly video I did earlier, I want to be clear here. This is not proof of a consistent, principled dedication to free speech. The right has betrayed that principle time and time again for the sake of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is objectively, according to FIRE, the sterling libertarian free speech organization, which is relentlessly criticized college campuses and progressives and liberals and Democrats and Democratic administrations.
Very nice.
They say that Trump's war on free speech is unprecedented in scope, scale, and severity. So he's objectively worse than any Democrat. And most of them have been content to just say, yes, sir, whatever you want. But Pam Bondi, they didn't like her after the Epstein Files debacle, and they don't like her now. So Mary Catherine Ham, kind of a center-right Fox News correspondent, says they actually don't have to bake the cake. And, of course, that's a reference to a famous Supreme Court case in which a baker declined to bake a cake for a gay couple. And it made its way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, you know what? Bakers and bakeries, they actually don't have to bake cakes for gay people. Now, I think they were sold, the couple was sold a pre-baked cake, but they could not request a custom wedding cake. Okay, so that's what a reference to. And that's really at the heart of this, which is that conservatives have really waged a successful war to allow businesses to refuse service. And what Pam Bondi is suggesting here would actually be to torpedo that. And it would force conservative businesses, if this precedent is set, to service liberals, progressives, gay people, trans people, people that conservatives really don't want to deal with, right? So Matt Walsh, who is repulsive, but Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire, he lost his shit. He said, get rid of her today. This is insane. Conservatives have fought for decades for the right to refuse service to anyone. We won that fight. Now Pam Bondi wants to roll it back for no reason. The employee who didn't print the flyer was already fired by his employer. This stuff is being handled successfully through free speech and free markets. This is totally gratuitous and pointless. We need the AG focused on bringing down the left-wing terror cells, not prosecuting Office Depot, for God's sake. Matt Walsh again, doing an imitation of Pam Bondi here. Conservatives, quote, we need the Trump administration to destroy the left-wing terror networks and prosecute everyone who aids and abets them. AG Pam Bondi. Best I can do is hate speech laws and suing Office Depot. Ari Cohn says, fact check, they cannot, in fact, prosecute you for refusing to print Charlie Kirk's picture for a vigil. Pam Bondi's competence to practice law is very much in question, and that's putting it mildly. I'll also point out that this was the subject of both the Wall Street Journal and National Review editorial team so like the editorial boards of both of those right-wing publications wrote some fairly scathing op-eds. Pam Bondi needs a free speech tutorial. The Attorney General seems to think hate speech is illegal. Charlie Kirk knew better. Is a basic understanding of the First Amendment too much to expect from the nation's Attorney General? Progressives have spent years trying to create and define a category called hate speech. This misunderstanding of First Amendment seems to have infiltrated the D.C. water supply because AG Pam Bondi repeated it Monday in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. And again, we discussed that at length. It also mentions how Charlie Kirk, at least, even though, again, I don't think he was particularly principled on this either, at least stated publicly that hate speech is non-existent. Okay? He was right, as governments around the world are proving almost daily.
I have to go to the bathroom.
It goes into an example of a British person who's being prosecuted for hate speech. Of course, they have no First Amendment protections there, so laws against speech are much stricter in the United Kingdom. Free speech isn't absolute in the United States, but exceptions are narrow, and hate speech isn't one of them. The Supreme Court held in a famous 1969 case, Brandenburg v. Ohio, that the government can punish speech as incitement only if it's directed towards and likely to produce, quote, imminent lawless action. General expressions of hate on the internet are despicable, but they aren't cause for prosecution. And then it says the AG also didn't recant her statement on Monday that the Justice Department might prosecute Office Depot or its ex-employee who refused to print a Kirk Vigil poster. Bondi hasn't had a distinguished tenure as Attorney General, as she too often seems to follow the latest social media, cable TV mood swing, but she is a law enforcer, not a social media anger management coach, and she's sworn to uphold the Constitution. Maybe Bondi should quit appearing on podcasts about Charlie Kirk until she listens to some Charlie Kirk podcasts. Then you have the National Review, so let's take a look at that. The assassination of, well, let's see what the title is. Pam Bondi's First Amendment Follies. The assassination of Charlie Kirk has loosed all sorts of emotions and apparently made Attorney General Pam Bondi go off the rails. Talks about how she declared again that hate speech would be prosecuted. This gets it precisely wrong, and in so alarming a way as it suggests Pam Bondi fails to understand the basics of the U.S. Constitution. There are two separate issues to address. To begin with, hate speech is not a judicially cognizable concept. There are certain categories of unprotected speech under the First Amendment, threats, defamation, and the like. But saying disparaging things about Charlie Kirk, no matter how tasteless, is not one of them. It's an expression of political opinion, and as such, it is one of the most securely protected rights Americans have. We can wish people did not feel the need to express crude and unworthy sentiments. We can even choose not to patronize companies that tolerate it if so inclined. But Bondi went far beyond that and raised the ugly specter of compulsion. Later that day, and that's in reference to the clip, appearing on Fox News with Sean Hannity, the Attorney General doubled down, stating that, quote, businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. To claim that anyone, a business owner, a commentator, or anyone must be forced to consent to participate in speech they disapprove of is little better than a mirror image variation on forcing beleaguered Colorado businessman Jack Phillips to bake the cake celebrating gender transition.
And I think he should have baked the cake.
As Bondi has done twice now, is to carelessly reject the commitment to freedom of speech and, not least of all, religion that conservative movements have fought tenaciously for over the last half century. It's hard enough to believe this sort of rhetoric could be heard from any attorney general, much less a Republican one. Excuse me. On Tuesday morning, Bondi clarified her remarks, saying she only claimed that hate speech accompanied by calls to violence would be prosecuted. It's an attempt at a rhetorical cleanup that...
and there is a... I think a senator who's like, yeah, I've sent you multiple... instances where me and my family have received death threats and you've done nothing, Miss Blondie.
It inspires little confidence. There still remains no legal category of hate speech. After all, Charlie Kirk was vulnerable to an assassin's bullet at Utah Valley University as a function of his willingness to engage in debate and speak his mind. Pam Bondi would be well served to heed that legacy and the U.S. Constitution she has taken an oath to protect. But again, that's part of the problem, is that Pam Bondi wasn't chosen for her constitutional rigor or her commitment to the ideals of the Constitution. She was chosen because she's a hack, a loser, a hack who will do whatever Donald Trump wants. And that really gets us back full circle, which is the only reason she's saying this shit is because she believes that this is what Donald Trump wants to hear. And it is what Donald Trump wants to hear because Donald Trump doesn't support the Constitution or hew himself to constitutional principles. So, you know, what's that expression about, you know, a fish rots from the head down? How can we expect, not to absolve Bondi here because she has agency, but what on earth would you expect from a Trump-appointed loyalist hack attorney general? And this gets back to the tension here. Megyn Kelly's been criticizing her, Tucker Carlson, so many people on the right. The problem is this is because of Donald Trump. This is an indictment of Trump's judgment, his sense of prudence and his sense of loyalty to the Constitution. Trump himself should be indicted as well, but of course MAGA will never do that. So either way, Pam Bondi's in deep shit. She's getting called out by a lot of people on the right due to recent comments about prosecuting hate speech and forcing businesses to service people, and these are two things that the right really cares a lot about. So you'd love to see the MAGA divisions, but in the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.
What did he say?
Already, starting with Humpty Dumpty, fake news, CNN, J.B. Pritzker, Gavin Newsom, predictably claiming this is conservative censorship. The MAGA crowd, Donald Trump got Jimmy Kimmel. That is false. I can't find a single prominent conservative voice in the country that even remotely wanted or hoped or was pushing to get Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air. Nobody.
Except for Trump.